All right, we're live. Or I should say I'm live, or I should say I am alive. That's a good way of saying it. So I am Joshua Kemble for anybody tuning in for the first time. I have been a professional graphic designer and illustrator for over about 20 years. Been a professional art director for 8. That's my current day job. And when I'm not doing art direction or graphic design and illustration, I'm working on crazy independent comics like Jacob's Apartment, which is my graphic novel that is basically a story about two young adults trying to find meaning and purpose in their lives, who are roommates. And when Jacob, the main character, is hit with a curveball when his father is diagnosed with cancer, and suddenly he starts questioning his faith, his identity, and is sort of reeling for purpose. In the meantime, Sarah has also gone through a really serious relationship. Who's his roommate? They live in this old Victorian apartment in Long Beach, and as she's going through basically a breakup with a previous relationship, and as they're both questioning their identity, they find themselves kind of being drawn together in both dreams and reality. And so their dreams and real waking and sleeping lives kind of start intertwining in a doomed romance comic that's kind of done in the vein of if you took Ghost World and Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind and put them in a blender and you like that flavor, that's the flavor of book this is. So make sure you've picked that up. And that's out from Graphic Mundi. Currently, it came out about 2 weeks ago, and I'm really excited about it. Talk about it to your friends. Talk about it to, local bookstores and all that fun stuff, especially if you like these streams. I also work on books like Two Stories, which is my graphic novel about faith and mental illness. It basically journals in a very serious confessional way my experience dealing with manic depression, caregiving for somebody with panic disorder, and growing up as a comic book geek, also growing up in a Christian school and kind of witnessing some of the weird hypocrisy that happens in religious institutions. And I'm very proud of it. This one's more black and white, very traditional, straight up raw, um, outlaw comics, basically underground, black and white, Zap kind of uh, traditionally lettered, hand lettered, hand inked, all of that stuff. And this is at a really discounted rate on Amazon. And now that I have those two books mentioned out of the way, I'm going to get into working on what I usually do during this stream. So I will kind of run through it. And if you guys are joining, welcome. Don't be shy. Feel free to say hi in the chats. Although I also understand like people like to have these things on in the background, and no imposition there as well. I'm just glad to keep you guys company. All right, so this is where we left off on our last live stream. So basically, what I'm working on are rough drawings, which are like the second phase of the art process of kind of translating a script to a graphic novel. And so I have a script. In this case, most of those two comics I mentioned at the top are comics that I've both written and drawn and illustrated and done everything with. This is a collaboration that my sister and I pitched to my literary agent, and then my literary agent got us a publishing deal with West Margin for it. Keely, she's amazing. And so basically, what I'm doing during this stream is working on this graphic novel called Not Death But Love, and it's this awesome. It's called The Strange Supernatural Case of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. That's like the subtext of it. It's a really awesome and exciting kind of very true to life, like surprisingly, like as I'm working on this, as we get deeper and deeper into the script and the graphic novel, you're probably going to have moments like where you're going to be like, this is just insane. Like this actually happened. And yes, like all of this stuff is actually from the letters of the Brownings to each other. And if you're not familiar with the Brownings, don't worry, that doesn't exclude you. It's actually a good intro to who the Brownings were. But just as a little recap, Elizabeth Barrett Browning is probably one of the most important English Victorian poets that lived in her lifetime. She wrote the famous poem, How Do I Love Thee? Let Me Count the Ways. Like, whether you are familiar with the Barretts, with Elizabeth Barrett Browning or not, you've heard lines by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And actually, their love letters between Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Browning are like almost cliches at this point. They're so like kind of ingrained in our culture of like romantic films and stuff like that, because they were a very passionately in love couple, and they used to write like insanely moving love letters to each other. So most people, when they write stories about the Brownings, will focus on like the romance and the love, and of course that's a part of this book. But this book is way more focused on being more historically accurate than previous stories, because previous stories about them have been like way off, completely wrong on the historical record. They always tend to make Elizabeth Barrett Browning out as if she's this woman with like no agency who's being rescued by Robert, and that's not the case at all. Like when you read their letters, and also there's this whole side story that like nobody's talked about, which is Elizabeth's kind of getting involved in like seances and all sorts of interesting, crazy stuff that's really fun to illustrate and draw. So, anyhow, so we've been introduced to the story. We've seen like Elizabeth lose her brother. We've seen her leave 50 Wimpole Street and basically elope with Robert Browning, who's a young poet that she's basically been romancing with over letters. And so he comes, kind of like scoops her up, gets her out of there. Although honestly, she kind of sneaks out of the house. They both elope, and now they're on a steamship to Italy. And then they basically arrived at Genoa, Italy from England. And then, which by the way, we're flashing forward a ton of time, because that was like I think like a trying to remember what I looked up, but I think it was something around like almost like a 90-day trip or a 40 to 90-day trip, which is insane to think that that was a short sea voyage, I guess. But anyhow, it was a very long trip. But anyhow, they're on this boat. Now we have them here in Italy at Casa Guidi on the second floor. It's basically a building in Italy, right next to the Palazzo PD, I think is what it's called. The Palazzo PD. I believe that's what it's called. And if you're from Italy, you can correct me on that, because I will make no pretenses of knowing much about it, other than what I've read and kind of researched for this script. So now we're working on page 26, and what we're going to be doing over here on this side is roughs. So I'm doing roughs based on thumbnails. So it's stage 2 of the art. For me, stage 1 is always just really quickly thumbnailing. And I can kind of show you guys that real quick too. We did this on stream the other day. If I can find the thumbnail in here. Let's see if we can find the thumbnail where I put it. Aha, there it is. So we did like a quick thumbnail that looks something like this thing I'm moving. That's the thumbnail that we're working from. And then we're basically building out from there. So I'm probably going to need to rearrange some of this reference that I have pulled up, because this is all stuff we need to see in order to do these pages. But what I'm doing also in the rough stage is gathering all of the historical reference that I need in order to kind of work on the pages. And now we're basically, Robert and Elizabeth have woken up in Casa Guidi. She's looked out the window and seen a scene. Scene and scene sounds a little redundant, but she's seeing something happening, an occurrence happening on the streets of Italy that she then actually, I don't think it's mentioned in the script, but it's definitely anybody familiar with Elizabeth Barrett Browning. She wrote one of her most famous poems like based on this scene, where she's looking out of the windows of Casa Guidi and seeing Italian revolutionaries kind of marching through the streets with like gusto and vigor. They're having a big parade, like a kind of almost like a protest, but it's not violent. It's like more of a celebration. And she ends up writing Casa Guidi Windows, which is actually like one of her more known plays. not plays, poems based on that. So that's kind of where we're at. And now she's still looking out the window, and Robert has woken up, snuck up behind her, and given her a kiss. And that's basically where we're at. And we're gonna kind of plug through. My goal today is to hopefully very quickly finish these roughs. And then after these roughs, I might live stream while I do this. But what the next stage will be is like to actually take the roughs, move them into Adobe Illustrator. I'll use Adobe Illustrator to do all of the panel borders and the type. And luckily, I already have like a bunch of Illustrator files that I've already built that have like these little Victorian filigree corners and stuff like that. And then I think that's probably as far, if we even get that far tonight, as we're going to go. But my goal is this week to try to finish 6 of these pages. And this is the rough for page 6. So we're a little over where I'd like to be, but I think that we can catch up. So that's my goal. Overall, this book is going to end up being about 250 pages. And so 230 pages, 250. And I would lose my mind right now with what I have mapped out. But we're on page 26 is rough, and we have 20 final pages done. And so that's kind of where we're at. And we need to have all 230 done by April, ideally, or ask for an extension with the publisher, which is not something I want to be doing. So here we go. And I'm going to basically, right now, what I'm going to do is kind of move some stuff out of the way. So right now I have her robe, which is probably going to be important. I have Elizabeth's. Let's just kind of start with the stuff at the bottom. We have our thumbnail, which I like where it is. We have a reference of like the section of their apartment or Casa Gaidi that they're in. It's not really an apartment; it's like a flat. But it's not like a full flat. It's like a story, like the second story of a flat. I think the flat refers to like the entire building, but you guys can, like, if you guys are in New York or like a bigger city where like flats are more common, maybe you can kind of fill me in. Because now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't know if that is actually what a flat is. It's what I understand one is, but I have definitely had times where there's things I should understand at my age that I fully well know or learn that I've had wrong for a long time. Okay, so that's going to be her nightgown. The thing on the bottom left is a shawl that she has over her nightgown. It's like a little, I don't know what it would be called other than like a shawl or a robe. And this is kind of like, I know it's weird to say, but it's like when you're drawing comics, you start feeling really attached to the characters. And I have to say, even though we're only 26 pages in, it's like I really am happy for Elizabeth because she's had such a rough time in the script so far. I mean, she's lost her brother. She's been kind of like on a chase lounge for like half the time, so often that and again, like this will be like a 5-second read for people as far as I am on the script, because comics go really quick. But for me, living with it for 20 pages, which is a lot longer than people are going to read it for, I just started feeling really bad for her because she's on a chase lounge feeling terrible about her brother's death and like just loaded full of laudanum, which is like the Victorian equivalent of just like opium. And to like try to cure her depression, from what it seems like, and I'm guessing pains as well, because she did deal with sickness like for a lot of her life. And honestly, people at that time had like crazy sicknesses. But anyhow, she's been like kind of miserable. So it's nice to have some panels where not only is she like out of the house with her controlling father, which we've already kind of established. The guy was so mad she eloped, he ripped the family portrait off the wall, right? So let's save what we got so far and start working on the roughs while I'm talking. but yeah, so I have to say it's kind of meaningful, and I know it's weird, but it's like kind of fun to see poor Elizabeth like feeling a little better. So anyhow, it's nice to see her like kind of being able to enjoy her marriage. Okay, so I think I explained the format. So that's where I'll be working on the rough, and then down there is the section of script that I'm going to be working on. And I'll go ahead and scroll down a little bit, and we'll highlight the area we're on. So we just got this part done, and then we have this very innuendo-laden type where it's Robert saying, "You are quite the early riser, my love," and then Elizabeth is saying, "How could I sleep with all of this?" So that's where we're at. And then my rough, this honestly hopefully won't take too long. I'm hoping it'll be under 2 hours, hopefully. You guys can quote me on that. If it goes over 2 hours, I think I said this last time. Oh, and whenever I'm doing this, I usually block out the type first. Now, keep in mind, we're going to be doing final type much later. That's a lot more worked out than this, but it still doesn't hurt to like try to write out the type. Some people will just do like text blocks like that when they're doing a rough. And it's like that doesn't really give you an idea of the full amount of space that the text is going to take. And it's probably better to leave a little too much than too little. One of my pet peeves in comics is when you have text bubbles overlapping the art and clearly not designed to be in the art, just kind of slapped on there, because it's almost like and I don't mean this as an insult to anybody who's done this, but it feels like almost like an insult to the art form, because it's like we have this like beautiful art form that we're all working in, and part of it is words and pictures. So if the words are an afterthought, you're like missing out on like one of the coolest parts about the comic book language. So I just encourage people, like, if you haven't yet started doing this, really start making space and designing for your type. I say as I'm sloppily writing my type rough. I'll probably work on the tail in a second. And I kind of like leaving, like anytime I have a corner like that, I want to kind of leave it almost out. You guys will see when, like, if we manage to make good time on this, like sort of where I'll take a rough, because what I'm going to try to do is do all the panel borders and type at least in Illustrator, because that would be my next stage after the roughs, because I just find the type so important, and the readability of the comic is huge too, because again, like, we're telling visual stories, so you want the visual and the text to kind of really make sense. She's saying, how could I sleep with all of this? Anyhow, so that's something I definitely try to think of when I'm working on this stuff. One thing I'll also say is, like, a couple streams ago, you'll notice that I was like getting to the page, and I think pretty clearly was like just not feeling it, and here's the neat thing about art and writing is, like, when you show up and you're kind of true to it, um at least I find, like, when you kind of show up and you're consistent with it, suddenly that passion comes back like pretty quick. So you'll have a day where you don't want to show up, and you're almost rewarded for showing up with by the next day having like a better time with it. Jan said, so you design panels with balloons. How do you feel about artists these days having to provide full comic pages fully drawn without the balloons? I am completely opposed to that. I'm not cool with that. But then again, I'm kind of weird. I think I'm a little strange for cartoonists, because the kind of comic I'm doing and the kind of cartoonists that I admire do everything. Like, there's a few guys I like that have like letterers, but most of the cartoonists that I like do everything. They do like all the art, all of the coloring, all of the everything. So I think if you're handing something off to a letterer and you're working on like a big team book, that kind of makes sense. But even in that case, like as the artist, man, I'd want to get better at lettering so you can have more control over that process. Because even with this, like with West Margin, I think initially they were offering a letterer, and I was like, no, I want to like, because here's the thing, everything about the design of this book, I want it to look like this hand done quality to it. And you'll see that like if you've seen some of the finished pages of this, like obviously this right now is not finished, but the final does kind of have like a pencil-y charcoal kind of free form style to it, and I'm not using any straight edge when I'm doing the panel borders for this book, because I want it to feel a little wonky and Victorian. um, you know what I'll do real quick before, I'll just pull up one of the finished pages so I can show what I'm talking about. Because I mean, it's a visual medium, so it's going to be easier to kind of talk over that if I pull it up. So like if I had a letterer, let me see if I can find a good example. I think actually that one page that's like an overhead shot of her would be good. It's one of the early on ones. Okay. So if I had like a letterer doing this page, it just would suck. Like this is the final. And it wouldn't suck. It's not like they wouldn't do a good job, but it's like I really want it to look like it's all flowing, like it's all in the same style. And same with the panel borders. Like if you look at it real close, these are all going to be like hand drawn. The lettering, if you look real close, is all hand drawn. And so I want this like kind of old school style to it. And again, like it's just like being able to have full control over that for me is a big thing. But it's hard to speak on like a project like if you have to knock out like 24 pages a month, having a team. But I mean, right now I have to do 6 a week to hit my deadline, and so I might be singing a different tune by the end of it because it is a ton to do as one person. Philip said, been listening and thought I should chime in and say hi. Jan, by the way, how you doing, man? It's been a while. We're gonna have CB Smallwood, who did like the Wildcat anthology, on Artcasters tomorrow, and I think Jan, you have something in that. So I'm pretty excited about having him on to kind of talk about the anthology, let us know a little more about it. Okay, so this is going to be her. She's sort of at the window, but I want her kind of tilted. Her head's going to be back. And again, these are just roughs. Head's going to be back. This is my first drawing of the night, so it may be a little rough, a little wonky. But you got to kind of loosen into it. And the easiest way to get used to and get loosened up to draw is just start drawing. At least that's what I find. But anyhow, Jan, I'm excited to kind of hear more about the Wildcat anthology and stuff. It looks pretty awesome. Jan said, I'm well and looking forward to the Artcasters, Southeast Asia time zone, and European office hours willing. Yeah, it's tough, right? So I'm guessing you're both adhering to European office hours, like with telecommuting. That's what I'm guessing. Is that what's meant there? So here she's going to be turning her head. She has this really unique hair. Like it's the most. She's a fascinating person to draw because she has this like very like thick, crazy curls, and you kind of almost have to just wobble them. That's what I've found. But it's kind of a fun look, and it's definitely a hairstyle I wouldn't invent, And it's fun to draw is all I'm saying, you know. So here we're going to have her, and I think I want her kind of tilting back. Her, she is wearing, she should be speaking. I can't stand in comics, like this is another little pet peeve, but I feel like when you have characters speaking, you should have them speaking. And in this case, I kind of want her holding like an oh ha. So something like that. There we go. Ha. That's about right for a ha. I don't know if you guys do that when you cartoon. If I'm drawing like a mouth position for a character, I'm always gonna kind of make the noise they're making, or say the word they're saying. But I feel like I do. I'm like compared to some of my animation friends. Like I know animators who like they'll have like mirrors surrounding their drawing table, and they'll just make like crazy faces while they're drawing. I think I do a little bit, so that might make for funny things in the stream. Like if I'm drawing somebody mad and I'm kind of glaring, or, but I don't think I'd do it quite as extensively as a lot of animators. I had a couple friends in school who were animation people, and they're great artists. And it was always fun because like you'd see them like running around, and you're like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, I gotta just feel the movement of the character." Like, you know what I mean? So they'd have to like if the character's running, they'd like run and kind of feel what part of their muscle is like tensed, and it's pretty cool actually. She's going to be sort of limply pointing because I don't want her to seem rigid, like as if like he's startled her or something, you know. I'm trying to see, where do I have the window? This is the downside of like having to work in like work a different job and then kind of get back to comics, is like, this thumbnail was clear as day when I drew it yesterday, and now I'm trying to think where I was thinking the window would be. But I like the idea of her almost gesturing at the window. I just hope that doesn't mess with, I don't think it does mess with the flow. So here she's going to be kind of more clearly using this palm out to sort of just convey like, how could I sleep with all of this? And she's, been leaning on this window kind of looking out. I just made the mistake of, she's also supposed to be wearing this this kind of shawl, but it's open. So we're going to have another set of sleeves here, and it's going to kind of show that shawl almost. And it's not a shawl, it's a robe. I almost wonder if I made a mistake there, up there. Let me look at the previous rough. I might have made a sequential error, you guys. This is why roughs are great too. Okay, let's pull up our rough for page 25, which took a lot longer because there's a little crowd scene in it. Yeah, she's wearing a shawl. So suddenly her shawl has disappeared. That's another thing I need to correct here. This is another reason doing roughs is great, because if I hadn't done roughs, I wouldn't have caught that sequential error we just caught. She's got kind of a robe here. That's gonna somewhat, and we'll have it kind of flowing back a little bit. Okay. Corrected. Okay, so this is her, and Robert's hand. It's right hand. Okay, cool. Merge this down. Jan said, "Is this your story or penned by someone else?" So this story is actually written by my sister. And it was like during the pandemic when the shutdowns first kind of happened. Um, I had gotten the deal for Jacob's apartment, and there was this period of time where all the galleys were in for Jacob's apartment. Um, all my script was ready for Two Stories Book 2, and that was out for editorial. So I had this like brief, like week long period. It was about a week to 2 weeks where I knew my sister had this story, and we had talked for a couple of years about. I just thought it would make a really great graphic novel. Like it's just kind of perfect for a medium. And I just had this window of time where my literary agent was like, "Hey, during this time, are there any like side projects you want to pitch to like publishers that expressed interest?" And I was like, well, my sister has this script. So we pitched the script. I made up like about 5 sample pages, and we had that shopping around. We built a proposal with my literary agent, had that shopping around to different publishers, and pretty quickly West Margin like was super interested. And so it was like this kind of cool thing where before Jacobs had come out, like we knew we had this, and then yeah, so that got all solidified a little bit ago, and then we finally got everything worked out with like deadlines, and then the script got editorial. And while that was happening, I was working on Two Stories Book 2 while the editor and my sister were working on revising the writing. And now it's just crunch time to knock out the pages. So but it's kind of co-created because but yeah, but she's definitely the writer. So yeah, Jan was saying a family effort. And that was a hard thing to pitch to my literary agent because I'm sure she's heard that from writers before where it's like, "Oh, I have a friend who is so talented." And then you read it and you're like, "Oh, I don't know about that." Luckily, I was able to qualify it by being like, "Look, my sister's like, she's been a professional writer for like longer than I've been a professional artist. Like she was the senior editor at our newspaper for over a decade and got paid to like write movie reviews. And so she's a really just incredible writer. And this was a book that she did, I think started in school and spent about half a decade writing, just with like immense amounts of research. And it's just like a subject that fascinated her, which now I'm starting to understand because it's like, just in the intro to this, it's been so fascinating just doing the small bit of research that's required to kind of just do the art. And so I just can see why it was like, it is interesting, and it's super like, I can also see why it took so long because it's a lot of work to like condense down just all this immense amounts of data. But it kind of just worked out because I've always wanted to work on a historical fiction book, almost as a challenge as an artist. Like I've always wondered if I would be up for it, if I'd be able to do something. Like one of my favorite writers, Jason Lutz, did this book called Berlin. And when I looked at it, I'd just be like, man, this is insane. He researched like everything from like the street lamps to like, you know what I mean? Like it's very intensely well researched. And he shouldn't be looking up in the air. He needs to be looking at the and again, I'm doing that like weird mannequin thing where it's like we always have to kind of fight that as artists, like the weird mannequin thing where you're like, just drawing a character on model instead of drawing them like with an expression. So anyhow, but yeah, it's a cool opportunity and we're really lucky. It's just been a really weird year where I thought that would be kind of floating around to publishers for a much longer than it did. And so it just was one of those cases where, yeah, like this last year has been a very like weird year of like kind of pitching and getting a bunch of yeses. I think that for the first time this year, I did have a publisher approach me a while ago, and I had to like actually just turn them down flat out because I was just like, I just don't have, I don't have time. I can't, Um, but I'm excited about it, and I kind of want to build momentum on it. And the thinking of it, in theory, I talked about it on this YouTube channel too. But like one of the things I was thinking about it was just planning this thing where hopefully, ideally, I'd be in a scenario where like almost every year, or the perception will look like almost every year I just have like another graphic novel coming out. Um, and in this case, it'll be like probably 2 years after delivery, or not 2 years after delivery, about a year after delivery, you'll see it, in stores and stuff. And this one will be fun because it's going to be a hardcover too, which is incredibly exciting. I was going to have him looking out the window, but I think he should be looking at her. I don't even know if I'm happy with this head yet. I think the tail needed to be drawn later, so that's becoming a problem. I think I want his head up here. But anyhow, Jan, sorry for rambling. It's actually something I'm really excited about, and it's just but it's also been like really surreal, and cool. And kind of encouraging because I've been at this for a while, so it's kind of fun to see when you kind of chip away at stuff, and you keep kind of working on comics. Like I don't know, I was talking to Jim Lujan about this after getting that deal. I was just like, it's very strange how these things just they kind of it's like you almost get rewarded for like staying at it. And I'm not saying that's how it works for everybody, but it is a weird thing where your determination. I did a little bit of a vlog about that today too, but it's something that's been on my mind where it's like weird that determination alone can kind of open doors, even ones that seem kind of closed. So I don't know. That's where I'm at. Hopefully that's not too crazy. He's got like he's gonna have like one of those old Victorian, like they have like crazy weird things. He also just looks, man, his eyes look really creepy here. it Romance scenes are always tough to do because you don't want to you don't want to you know you don't want to have like creepy lover guy, um it's just kind of like not the way to kind of go about this. And the one thing with a rough that I want to nail is like figure out the expression and the movement, because like the other stuff, like I can work on that later. Some of the anatomical stuff, easy fixes. But like knowing my expressions and lighting and like staging and costume and all of that stuff is going to be like a much better route. I think I'm going to have him leaning in a little bit here. Because even that was a little strange. Kind of almost like violent the way it's almost looked like he was like pumping his pelvis forward. And I think this looks a little more like, hey, I kind of like the idea of maybe, did I have his hand going anywhere? I like the idea of this hand possibly, maybe this hand's like here, just kind of situate more of a silhouette here. Jan was saying it's great to see you get the recognition after putting the hours, well deserved. Yeah, and I mean it's still the same game where it's like moving indie comics, and publisher or not, you got to move books, and it's hard. It's hard to get people interested in indie comics. It's very reliant on like little tiny amounts of sales. And unless you get to like the Abrams level of like publishing. But at the same time, like this, it is kind of, at least in my career so far, it started kind of escalating. So it's like Like the first deal was a very small publisher that I like, and they took a risk on it, and that was all awesome. The next was a little bit bigger of a publisher that I absolutely love. The editor is just an incredible person. And then this next one is like a slightly bigger publisher, and like each deal's subsequently gotten a little bigger and a little bigger. And so, and then actually even the quality of the book is getting just like a little more expensive, like in the sense of like what they're willing to kind of put into the printing on the final process, which is kind of cool. You kind of work a lot of that out early in the deal. Like, and some of those factors can change, but I'm really excited about this being a hardcover too. That'll be fun. But that's another reason also, like with these, you know, and you'll understand this, Jan, but it's like I want to take advantage of the opportunity, and I definitely don't want to blow it. Like I want to do great work, you know, for it. And I mean, that doesn't make me unique. I think a lot of people do, but that's my point is like, you know, even though it's a lot of pages, I still want to take my time and rough them and like really, you know, do my due diligence to make sure like I'm going to provide like the best possible pages that I can, you know, within the time frame. And I'm really happy with how the pages are coming out so far, although I do have to figure out a way to kind of knock them out a little quicker, which again is like a good challenge to have. But I'm rambling, dude. Anyhow, so I know this is like they're at the windowsill. She has this open window. We kind of established that there's a little bit of a breeze, and I want to kind of reinforce that with like maybe behind the window there's some of that like we sort of established that this room has like these long curtains. So I think I'm going to have that in there. We know the light source is coming from the window. She's turning a little bit from the window from where she was leaning out and looking, and clearly getting inspired because she ends up writing Casa Guide windows from this. Yeah, it's pretty cool to it's it was fun to it's just been a fun experience so far. And I like talking about it. Like even on which gives me a good sign because it's like I have so much difficulty pitching books. But when I was on Comic Book Club yesterday, I didn't have too much trouble talking about this book. We'll see when I'm not working on it. That's the problem with pitches for me is like whenever I'm working on a book, like it's fresh on my mind. I'm like passionate about it and into it and pouring everything I got into it and thinking about it all the time. When I'm off of a book, it's like I'm working on another book that I'm doing the same thing with. So it's a little harder to kind of stretch and remember all the things you loved about the book, you know, um, when you're having to talk about something. I mean, Jan, maybe like you feel that way with like I don't know how you feel about the anthology piece, but it's like by the time you wrapped that, from that time to like when it's come out, it's like trying to find that passion you originally had to talk about it and be like, this is exciting, you know. It can be a little tough, is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that that's bad. I mean, you should find that, but it's just a little weird to try to find that that angle where you can still be passionate and kind of hopefully translate to people all the hard work you put into the book. Um, we're gonna move this over here. We have that. I'm pretty happy with that. That actually works as a sequence. So then we're gonna have. Okay, so Robert's putting his arms around her. Let's see here. Remove this list part because I always start with a list. I actually like this gesture. I'm going to use this as a base. I've done this a few times. I like the gesture. If I like the gesture in a thumbnail, I'll often kind of pull it and almost like use it as a starting point. But yeah, I do feel pretty lucky for the way considering just how crazy the pandemic was, it's like I feel like I don't know, like a lot of strangely good but also overwhelming, and I've talked about this on here before too, but it's like weird because it's like when you start getting rewarded for your work, it's like usually kind of like, congratulations, you have more work, which is like both a blessing and a curse because you're like, oh man, this is awesome. This is exactly like the kind of thing I want. But then it's like, okay, now you have to do 6 pages a week. Okay, we can make that happen. I don't want to go backwards, but oh my gosh, very intimidating. Okay. Let's lock this, and then I'm going to make it cyan. I did this on the last stream. But it's fun to hear from you, Jan. I know, like, how's married life treating you? I hope it's treating you well. Okay. I think we're going to get into this one. This is really cool. We might actually finish this page relatively soon if my Wacom stops blipping out. Okay. I don't know if you guys have that too, but like every once in a while, my computer will just be like, nope, not moving my brush. And you're like, oh man, it'll, cause like a delay. Okay, so this is going to be same kind of thing but this is a little more sweet, where Robert is going to have, he's going to be kind of here, eyes closed, and he's going to be saying, aha, okay, cool. Oh, I was making one of the mistakes that I was just railing about. We need to do the type. Here he's going to comment on her getting tan. This is also a reference to what will become one of her collections of love poems called Songs from the Portuguese, because Robert starts calling her his Portuguese. But here he's saying, you are becoming a true Italian. And here I'm just using, anytime I'm blue lining, I like to do like a magenta over it. It's just bad. It's old habits die hard, I guess. You're becoming a true Italian. Look how brown you are. I don't like the stacking of this, so I'm going to change this is why I love to rough out type first, because it's like I can kind of figure out my text arrangement before it even gets to final. And that helps me avoid like making design errors, like which I like. So now I can pair it in 3s, which is going to stack a heck of a lot better. Jan said, like singing a song while something else you like is playing on the radio. I could see that. You're becoming a true Italian. Look how brown you are. Okay, that's going to be the type here. You are. And this is going to be the text balloon. Yeah, I think Jan was like he was saying that singing song, I think in reference to the like pitching something that you did you did already that you put a lot of work into, but you're on to the next thing. And so it is kind of weird to like, you're kind of singing along to a song that, yeah, you're kind of on to the next album, but you're having to play the hits, it's kind of nice though too, because for me, even talking about Jacob's Apartment, there's like times where I'm so happy to talk about it because it's like I'll be reminded of stuff where I'm like, oh yeah, I did that thing here. That was a big deal, when I did that. And I'll like have forgotten about it, not like in a bad way, not because it was forgettable or anything. It's just because I've been on to the next book. So I do think that's one of the blessings of, as hard as it can be to like pitch a book that you did a while ago, it's like one of the cool things about it is it reminds you of like how fun the process, like the thinking, you start being able to like relive the thinking that you put into it. And I think that tends to make you a little proud of the work too. Why am I doing shading before well, whatever. We're going to do shading. That's fine. Okay. Now I'm getting a little too nitpicky about the results. Okay, so this is going to be Elizabeth. She's sort of casting her need that portrait of Elizabeth. There we go. I want her sort of casting her That's a terrible eye I just drew. I should be ashamed of that eye. Oh, and then I just made the other mistake. This was going to say, I love it here. My Florence. We're getting there, guys. Yep, worked out the stacking there. I think this is going to be better kind of left sort of here. And we're going to do our panel board balloon. The balloon. I tend to not like having balloons overlap figures. And you'll notice that with my comics. I try to avoid that like the plague. I think when we were thumbnailing this out, it just seemed like a logical. It was hard to think of a better way to kind of make that happen. So in this case, it's going to be like a long balloon, but I want it to at least not make a tangent with his arm. And then hopefully no one reads this as, hey, his arm's like, hey, I love it here in Florence. And he's like, thank you, arm. If you guys think otherwise, let me know. But I think that's actually a scenario where I think it was excusable. So then this was going to be her kind of, again, like her crazy hair. She has awesome hair, though. I'm telling you. Telling you guys, if you're ever bored, just draw Elizabeth Barrett Browning. It's pretty fun. Pretty interesting hair. Okay. So this is going to be Robert, but obviously I need to build him out more. He was a little thin in my rough. Want him to have a little meat on his bones. He's not going to be like a super, hugely buff guy, but I like the idea of him kind of having more weight to him. And then he was going to have his arm kind of here. She's going to have her arms over his. So this is a strange pose to kind of do, but we can make it happen. Then his back. At this point, he's like, embracing her. She's going to have her nightgown going. And this is going to be his other arm, which will be on the other side. Maybe under. I think that would actually read better. His other arm under here. And then she is sort of smushed in there. So her arm's going to be here. I like the idea of her kind of. I just don't want to tangle the arms so much that it gets confusing. That's the hard thing with a pose like this too. But I do think that works a little bit. Then she has her nightgown on, so we got to do that kind of swirly bop thing. And then she's going to be leaning back right now, kind of a little bit back. And maybe there we go. He is, again, like these are weird PJ bottoms that men had at the time. It's like a kind of like long underwear type thing almost. It looks like a pair of boxers, but they're like long pants. We looked them up. At least I looked them up yesterday, and it's kind of fascinating. And then men's pants at the time just had really high waists. Even on their suits, like their suits were just way higher up. It was almost like if you took the 80s jeans trend that like a lot of women had in the 80s where they had those like really high ridden jeans. It's like that, but like in men's pants in Victorian era. It's like almost the same cut line, like a little bit above. It was like above almost like above the belly button. It's kind of weird. Kind of makes sense though from the time, but just an interesting. Fashions are really interesting to me. And I'm by no means like great at that in art. Like I know some people who do costume art, and it's like they'll get into like crazy details, like crazy details that go way further than mine, where it'll be like the hemline and but I think that makes sense if you're able to focus on just the costume alone for a bit. Of course you want to like focus on like, man, in Victorian England they had this specific hemline, and but I'm just kind of mocking it up as best I can. So here's going to be, I think that's slightly romantic. It doesn't look like she's being like accosted. I think I need her other arm doing something. I don't think I thumbnailed that originally. But if she's saying I love it here in my Florence, maybe it can be her hand kind of out saying, I just don't like the idea of cutting off her hand. Okay, let's try this again. It's going to be, there we go. just having her hand out, you know, so that we're not like, what happened to her arm? Because I think otherwise it looks like a very like strange pose because it looks like she's a person with one arm, which again, you know, nothing against people with one arm, but I believe she had two arms. So Jan, if you're still in the chats now, I'm kind of curious how the coding stuff is going. I've seen that on Twitter, especially. Like you've been posting really interesting stuff, and I don't know a whole ton about it. Do you mind kind of sharing a little bit about like what you're learning in coding and um, how that journey is going for you? Because I mean, I do know a few people who go do coding and love it. But what an interesting kind of path. I think it sounds really cool. I'm sure there's a party that like codes something and you're like, oh my gosh, I can tell a machine to do anything. Like there's got to be, I don't know, there's got to be a cool, enlightening thing about that, being able to like make a program, make a computer do your will. That's pretty cool. That's all I'm saying. It sounds awesome, but I'd love to hear more about it. So there's gonna be like a little more of Genoa, Italy outside. But I also want to reiterate that like there is light kind of streaming from there. Um, Maybe we'll kind of reiterate some of the dark behind them just to like highlight the light in front of them. And we are getting closer to done with this page. And hopefully it doesn't take me longer than 2 hours. I'm liking this page so far. Okay. Now we just have to figure out, okay, let's get back to our thumbnails. I always keep these things on like different layers just to kind of keep them easy to move around. Okay, so there's my thumbnail for the page we're going to do next. It is Robert pretty much being like, lady, we're coming back to bed. In a much more like flirty, less obvious way. Don't worry, this isn't a book full of like, this is going to be a book that actually is good for all ages. So it will be realistic in depicting people doing what people do, but it's not going to be like, don't worry, we're not heading towards like a graphic scene. And it's funny because I feel like even saying that it might kind of split some of the audience. Like the friends of mine who like really like the super raw confessional stuff that I do might be like, oh man, because I'm not against that in comics. I just, you know, it'd be weird on a comic that you're making for kind of ideally all ages. Like I want this to be a book that my son could read, you know. Jan said, getting burned out during the pandemic, I pivoted after a while to a different passion that will hopefully provide new avenues for both work and creativity. It's hard in a marathon to learn, but in today's age with so much information and how-tos and YouTube alone, it's much more doable. Yeah, that's awesome. And then Philip was saying he looks shirtless but also has a sleeve. Oh, let me double check that. Oh, that wasn't a sleeve. It was just my I just need to erase. This is where I need to kind of erase out that yeah. That was just my little line to kind of indicate his hand, but it's better to clean that up. Thank you for catching that. I actually really appreciate that. Okay. So now we've been going for about an hour. I'm going to put on the trailer for Jacob's apartment, and then I'm really excited to get back because Jan's sharing a little more about the programming, and it's kind of exciting, and I can't wait to hear more about it. So thank you, Philip, though. That's good, because like, again, like you draw, I think that's why, like, Philip, you'll know this, like in animation, but it's like that's why in animation, like, you usually have like a cleanup guy or something, so they can get rid of some of the structural lines that might be confusing. Oh man. Okay. We've got 2 more panels to go. This is like going to be the easiest rough page ever. These are tight roughs too. I want to be clear about that to people. You can definitely do roughs that have less information that do the same job, but because these are going to go to my publisher, and then also it just makes the final process like that much easier for me. That's why I tend to do tighter roughs. Philip said, right, I know what you mean, and winked. All right, so I'm going to put on Jacob's Apartment, and then we are going to rock and roll and finish this. So I'm also going to get a refill of coffee. Hope you guys are having a good night so far. I'll be right back. Speak clearly, it seems that only in dreams can we be these things we've seen and walk around breathing things. I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams. All right, welcome back to the live stream. I am back, and we're gonna plug away. And I've figured to hit my deadline, pretty much gonna get as much work done as I can before 2 in the morning, and then I have a hard out. Because I've realized with my health, it's possible for me to kind of work from like basically 9 to 2. Those are kind of my work windows. And then anything beyond that means like I won't be functional the next day. And that's just where I'm at. Maybe that'll change, but so far that seems like the magic number. So we're going to keep going till 2. If I end up doing this, what we'll do is then switch gears, which I think is going to be very feasible, like within the next hour to get this done. We're going to basically real quickly get the rest of this thumbnail or rough done. And then from there, hopefully I'll have time to kind of do the panel borders and text for the 6 pages that we have roughed to kind of catch us up so that I'm prepped to kind of go to final pretty soon. So that would be cool. We'll see. Again, it's all kind of like God willing, right? And then I think I've talked a little bit about like potential gallbladder thing. I'm getting that checked just to follow up for people who might be curious or concerned. I'm getting the ultrasound on Friday morning, so which is cool, and it hasn't like flared up or acted up or anything like that, and it's not like a super serious thing, so that's good to know too. Again, I'm gonna use my thumbnail because I liked the gesture of it, and I feel like it's actually pretty fun. And I want there to be movement in this. I want Elizabeth to be This is a further away page. I can be a little more cartoony with it. So this is Elizabeth being swept away by her husband back to the boudoir. And, you know, I think people can fill in the blanks, even in an all ages story, in what that means. Okay, so Robert is going to be here. Oh, my gosh, I keep forgetting the text. Oh. Yes. He's going to say it does seem that Florence has brought you back to life. And I'm going to go ahead and center that out. That might be a little too wide. We'll see. I think it actually works pretty perfectly, but we'll see. Yep. That's going to be about correct. Even, man, I really like all the data in that thumbnail. It's fun when you do a thumb and you capture a lot of movement and kind of get the gist of a thing. It's pretty cool. I need to redo that a little bit. Hold on a sec. Let's start with the eye. That might be better. He has a kind of Abraham Lincoln beard, which makes for a challenge because it's like you want to I want to depict him, you know, in the way that Elizabeth saw him, but also he has like a strange beard. And I have a strange beard, but my beard is not attempting to look, you know, appealing to like a reader. His is supposed to be, so it's a bit of a challenge. If anybody ever, you know, has that challenge in the future with a historical fiction, it's a pretty big one. Okay. And then her hand is going to be here. The only tough thing about this is all the crossover. And I don't want to suffer the silhouette, you know? Okay. And that arm's a little meaty. Thin it out a little bit. All right, there we go. She's going to be having her nightgown. This will have the the nightgown's kind of looser, so that's going to be there. And then the shawl is going to be kind of flying out a little bit because romance. Okay, guys. Like, I'll admit, I'm a strange person in the sense that I really like Sherlock Holmes and Victorian era stories, and I even like, stories by like Jane Austen and stuff. So there's a side of me that like, enjoys like a good old Victorian romance. I mean, why wouldn't you? That's fun. So there's a little bit of that in this book, although the primary focus of this book is not the Victorian romance. This is just establishing their relationship, so we can get into the meat and the fun stuff. But there is like, you kind of at this point hopefully will have like a like for the characters. And these are thinner. That's a little thicker. There we go. And we're gonna do, okay, we've got our crowd. Wait, why did the window just that's a problem. Window's like tall enough for her to lean on, and suddenly it's a short window? That doesn't make sense. Come on, let's be consistent here, you guys. And I think you guys are watching and being like, dude, we're consistent. You need to be consistent, buddy. I know. Yeah, I'm a sucker for like a good old Victorian romance. Why the heck not? All right. So then we have, here is going to be the piano that we already established would be there. Except it'll be the other side of the piano. So this will be interesting. It's got to be kind of like the keys, but I don't think they'd be uncovered. So we're just going to see just barely the base of that. Maybe we'll see the stool. You know what? I don't think the piano comes in yet. So we'll probably just see some of the filigree on the wall. So like something like that with the rug kind of pattern. And let's see here. Cool. Okay, let's get rid of that background. Why didn't that disappear? Oh, that's strange. Man, that was a major computer lag there. I want to read more of Jan's experience. So Jan said, I've always had in the back of my mind I wanted to make an app out of my comic book endeavor, so that might be some time off, but in the end, this learning new skills will loop back into my art side, of course, or your art side will loop back into the, like programming. I have a good friend who is probably one of the wealthiest people I know, and he is creative and also does data analytics. And it's like, because he's able to be creative and do data analytics, it just makes like his market value like huge, because most creatives don't know how to do like run AI and do data analytics and programming. And most programmers, from what he's told me, again, this is just me talking from what he's told me, but he said most programmers aren't like super creative, and so like that are in data analytics, at least they're usually more numbers kind of folks. And so the fact that he's able to kind of bridge that gap gives him like an intensely huge like market value, which is cool. So good on you, Jan. Like I think that is that sounds exciting either way that it goes, you know? Like, you know, for me, I like art direction a lot. It also is a great way to subsidize my comics, you know? But it's like the comics feed the art direction feeds the comics. It's kind of a weird, like, yin and yang thing where you get better and kind of learn things. That actually is a pretty good panel. I like that. And then we're going to have, again, I want it to kind of reiterate like a little bit of what we've seen um, with some of the crowds and stuff. Maybe like a window. A lot of this in rough stage is fairly simple, and then in the final will be hell because it's just all of these crowd scenes. But I like it. And then this last panel, again, I'm really glad I did pretty decent thumbnails for this because I think I'm gonna pull from the thumbnail and we'll just polish it up. So let's see. Oh, Jan said, "Ever watch Barry Lyndon, the Kubrick historical drama?" You know what? I haven't. Is it worth watching? I mean, I feel like if it's Kubrick, it's got to be worth watching, right? I feel like Stanley Kubrick, the way that he just has like he has such a um I mean, this isn't like saying it hot take, you guys. Stanley Kubrick is a pretty visually compelling director. I know it's not popular to say. I'm joking. That is like the most obvious thing I could say. but my point is, I do love that he has like a even if it is cliche, it's like I do love that he has like a voice and a look, and it's like if you watch a Kubrick film, it's got a poem to it. It's like the whole thing just there's like a visual component to it that I think for artists, I think it's hard not to watch like Kubrick films and just be like stunned because of um yeah, just like how aware he was of like visual themes, you know. Um Jan said Kubrick's films are detached from the personal and more from a humanity perspective. Yeah, and I feel like yeah, they just have something to them, like on an art side too. You know, it's just like a very clear vision. I think like every book he goes into or every story he goes into for a film is like he has like he has to have like a very set idea of like what it is he wants because which you know some people have criticized because like some of Kubrick's films you know like if you read Clockwork Orange and then you watch Clockwork Orange, there's some stuff that got totally lost in translation. But the one thing like nobody can argue with, like even people who aren't fans, it's just like no one can argue with the fact that it's a stunning movie. Like even if you don't like the movie, it's stunning. It's just like a visual um triumph, like even if the plot didn't work for you, you know. Like The Shining too. Like there's a ton in that book that's not in the movie, but like I like the movie more than the book. You know, because of that. Like I think just there's more mystery to the film and like a really strange just um thing. Did Kubrick do hang on a second. Now I'm wondering if I'm thinking the wrong. Yeah, okay. I like here I was like I was freaking out for a second thinking like it is Kubrick who did The Shining. Yeah, it is. Okay. Good, good, good. It should I mean, I was pretty darn sure, but I had this moment of like, am I being a jackass here and thinking the wrong director? No, I'm not. Okay. He said he used special cameras meant for satellites from NASA to be able to shoot dark scenes in natural light. That's awesome. Just to get that historical 18th century look. That's awesome. I'm going to have to watch that. Just maybe that'll inspire me, you know? So this is going to be obviously a kiss. I liked my rough here. I think my rough was giving a lot of good data. I actually need to pay more attention to my rough with my data here. Kisses are always a little tough to draw. But I think we've got it here. Kind of. Her chin's going to need to be adjusted a little bit. And then we have okay. Some hand action going on here. And some of Robert's hair. All right. Now we're going to just kind of add some shading. Jan said he has to run. Thanks for stopping by, Jan. It's always good to see you. And make sure you tune into Artcasters if you're able. That's at 9 p.m. Pacific tomorrow night, and it'll be fun. We're having CB Smallwood to talk about the Wildcat Anthology, which is actually featuring art by Jan. And you guys should also check out Jan's YouTube channel. He is a very good artist in his own right, and right now is learning programming and pretty cool, fascinating stuff that he's been posting. So make sure you guys are following him on all the social medias. But it's fun to hear from you, man. I feel like we haven't been able to catch up in a while, so it's good seeing you in the chats, and I hope all is well. So there we go. We've got our last panel thumbnailed, or not thumbnailed, roughed. And I am happy as a happy person. Yay! Okay, so finally, we have gotten to the end of this 6-page rough extravaganza. And did we make it? Yep, it was under 2 hours. I'm good because I'm glad, because I was a little worried that we would be publicly shamed there, or I would have to be publicly shamed if I didn't hit that. So before I party too much, I'm going to go ahead and print this out because I like to have a hard copy. I'm going to make sure I've saved it so I don't have to have the embarrassment of being like, woohoo, we finished it up. And I think this reads really well. I think this is like kind of wonderful, actually. Okay. It's kind of a romantic page. It's got a little bit of sexiness, but it's not like, super inappropriate. And then it's got, like, yeah, it shows their relationship. It conveys their relationship, sets things up for the next stage. And now I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to close it out. And I'm going to get things prepped for the next phase. So we'll go ahead and put the full cam on. And then I'm going to go ahead and probably put on the trailer for 2 stories. And then we're going to do, I'll try to kind of set it up so we can stream it. I'll show you guys how I go from roughs, like starting with page 21's rough, to doing panel borders and type in Adobe Illustrator, which I think might actually be helpful for people. Philip said, I got to head to bed myself. Good night, Philip. Good night, Jan. I appreciate you guys coming in. I am hanging in there for the next hour and 45 or longer. So you guys are welcome to leave or stay. I'm going to go ahead and put on the trailer for 2 stories, and then we're going to rock and roll. Because like I said, to hit this deadline, I got to just keep chugging until 2 and get as much as I can done. So here we go. We got the trailer for 2 stories. This is the Christmas trailer. And I hope you guys enjoy it. And I'll be right back with vigor. Okay, sorry. I was trying to like make sure that the next, so I always print things out in sequence. So these are like copies of the finished pages. And then I'm like, I have my hard copies, and I'm just making sure my sequence is correct. Because I want to have my hard copies there, and then I'm probably going to need my script pulled open too. So give me like 2 more seconds, and then you know what? I'll put on Jacob's trailer, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll. and work. So I got a little bit more prep to do. Sorry. But this is comics, and I got to make sure my page sequences are good and stuff. And all my text is ready to do panel borders. So here we go. Speak clearly, it seems that only in dreams can we be these things we've seen and walk around breathing pain. I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams. Okay, so we're going to start with page 21. We're going backwards to the roughs, like the section of roughs. So we have finals. By the way, I also forgot to mention the roughs that we've done up to this last one, all approved by the publisher. They loved them. So we're good to go. Like, that's a good thing. And so what we're going to do here is... Oh, and also I was supposed to hold myself accountable to you guys on this because I've talked about this. One of my goals is while I'm doing this book, it's so easy to get lost in this current book and like lose track of Jacob's Apartment, which is the book that just came out. So one of my self goals is to every single day I have to, regardless of if I have a place in mind or a press outlet in mind, send one email for press for Jacob's Apartment and one to a store to like at least generate or start the discussion about store signings. Because the goal in theory for the next year is to try to do a book signing or convention every month. Like, it has to be either a book signing or a convention. It can even be an in-store. It doesn't have to be a huge event. And again, I may not hit this goal. It's just a goal. Goals are meant to be like, you can't control life, right? But you can aim for things, and with an objective, hey, maybe we'll get there. And then also I want to try to get like one appearance or interview, or at least expand my social network. That's the worst case scenario, every month. So, which by the way is not a bad scenario. I like the idea. Jim Lujan kind of planted that seed for me, where he talked about a book that he had read where they were saying you should try to do one thing that makes you uncomfortable every single day as an artist. Like, if you have an email, somebody you wanted to reach out to that you haven't yet, do it once a day. Like, just get in the practice of being uncomfortable. Because that's just kind of a good way to kind of stretch your goals. Anyhow, and it sounds like I heard back from a store, so I'll have to check up on that in a second. But now let's get this kind of set up. So bear in mind, like, my OBS might be a little weird to set this up. I think it's possible though. So, okay. What I do is basically I'll like I said, we're going backwards in time to our page 21 rough, which we did, probably a couple days back. And so I need to find that rough. And then what I'll do is I'll literally drag the rough into Adobe Illustrator. So I literally just grab the file, drop it into Adobe Illustrator, and that's what we're going to be streaming. So now I need to just tell my Here, I'll open page 21 so you guys can at least know. I'm going to open it in Photoshop too. But I just want you guys to see how this works. So we're opening page 21 right now. It's taking a long time. I'm going to minimize my other screen so my computer's not having to do a ton of work. Oh, my computer is not happy about 2 programs open right now. Okay, why is my Wacom not working? That's interesting. Okay, are you not reading my Wacom? That's interesting. Okay, so what I'm also doing is opening it in Illustrator, and maybe my Wacom will work in a second. Okay, it does look like it's registering. It's just got a mass delay because it's trying to open 2 things at once. My computer didn't like it. But right now what I'm doing is also dragging it into Illustrator, and then I'm going to kind of see, maybe having those 2 open at the same time is just not doing wonders. Okay, I got my Wacom power back. Now I need to see if OBS is reading Illustrator, because I don't think it is. So I'm going to go ahead and update it so that it's linking to Illustrator if my computer stops running so slowly. Okay. All right. If I do this, you guys should be able to see. Can you see Adobe Illustrator? Let me know in the chats if you guys are in the chats. If not, whatever, we'll just assume. Yeah, you should be able to see Adobe Illustrator now. So basically, I've opened the PSD in Adobe Illustrator, and we're going to do a couple things to kind of do our setups for our line art and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and pull open the comments too, just to make sure. Okay. So right now, if I look on my layers, which you guys should be able to see, and I need to reopen the script. I'm going to go ahead and close out the Photoshop file because it's asking too much of my computer to have those 2 open at the same time, which is weird because they're not big files, but whatever. Okay, so what I'm going to do once I have my rough open in Adobe Illustrator, I'm going to double click the layer, and there's this thing that you can click that says template, and the default dims your page to 50%. That's what I want. I'm going to make a new layer, and now I'm going to open my previous Adobe Illustrator pages, and you guys will see I have them saved as panels text. And actually right now I'm going to save this as text. So this will be saved as, in a file called panels text. And then they're just labeled as roughpage.ai, and it'll be whatever page it is. In this case, this will be roughpage21.ai. And the beauty of this is this is already like scaled to have the safe areas that I need. And with some adjustments, once I re-import the AI to Photoshop, in theory, this shouldn't be too far off. So right now what I'm doing that's off screen that you guys aren't able to see. First we want to go to the page in the script. So let's go to page 21. Sorry, I'm bouncing around a bit. So I'm going to go to page 21 in the script. So I have my actual type, which is great because I have a letter here that I think I'm going to hand write. But I also have all the text that I may not hand write. So yeah. I'm going to find a page that's kind of similar to this. Like, do I have a page that has 3 up at the bottom? I don't know. Let's find out if we've made that yet. If we've made it, I don't want to have to recreate the wheel. Like, why recreate something that's already been made? And check this out, you guys. On page 10, we already did that. So I'm going to show you guys roughly what I do. Like, you'll see that I've built these panel borders. And then I've also already established a text size, and I have a live type. And then I already have my squished kind of oval that basically what I do to kind of create good ovals is I'll kind of go to like draw an ellipse. And then what I do is I move the ellipse over quite often. This is like my favorite way to make panel borders. And then I'll kind of pull the top part here to where it's a little closer. So it's a little more like a rounded rectangle, but it's a little more freeform. And then from there, I'll kind of like modify it to kind of fit around whatever text box I need. And that's kind of how I make the main. And then I'll draw the tail as well. And we'll kind of get into that in a second. But right now, we have a lot of this pre-made. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it, paste it over, and then kind of align it with my page. And then we're going to make adjustments to kind of get it there. But I'm a big fan of like reducing the complexity of the job. And so this is just one way that like cuts out a lot of stuff. So what I do then is just move all the type because I may need panel borders. I don't think there's any dialogue on these pages, but just in case, right? I want to kind of be safe. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and make adjustments using the white arrow tool. Kind of move the borders where I need them to be. So in this case, this is an interesting one where I know that I have 3 panels that actually need to be sequential. So I'm going to go ahead and make them evenly spaced away from each other. And then I'm going to use that. Hold on a sec. This is getting a little confusing. Okay. I'm going to use a box to kind of evenly space with a little more of a gap. This is just a cheat. Duplicate that box and kind of move it to where it's going to function as like a guide for where I need to move my other boxes. Now I'm going to grab the ones that I had prior and sort of shift accordingly. So I wanted that there. Use my white arrow tool. This isn't a tutorial either, guys. But if you have any questions about what I'm doing, feel free to ask in the chats or ask in the live chat is ideal. And if you have like a really pressing question that you want me to get like tutorial level on, feel free to like super chat as well, and I can get a little more in depth about it. Okay, so I have one panel kind of worked out. Now I need to get the other, which is going to mean that I need to kind of pull these little corners without pulling these little corners. Again, pull these little corners without pulling these little corners. So I'm going to go ahead and send behind. And now I don't have a need for the underlying one of those lines. So we have one panel kind of worked out that's almost even. Now I need to have these scoot over and these scoot over. And I don't want to have my little guide there to scoot over because I don't need it to scoot over. Okay. Now I'm going to kind of move this, send that behind, and again, get rid of that guide because I don't need it. Get rid of the guide because I don't need it. Now we have like a kind of evenly spaced out thing, although I want to kind of move this to where it's a little more evenly spaced here too. And that'll get us a little closer to where we want to be. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense. I want to also check. Yeah. Okay. We've been doing that the whole time on those bottom panels. So that's good. And you know, it's funny. I could have just pulled those 3 from here where they're evenly spaced from page 15, but that's okay. This is evenly spaced now. So I do want to kind of space these just a little itty bit over. And I have like snap points so that, you know, hopefully these things geometrically align. Like here, it shouldn't be hard to center to the 2 because I have that snap on. But in any case, sort of let it take care of itself. I think I did more harm than good, guys. There. So, okay. Okay. I think that's kind of there. All right. So then I need to kind of adjust some of these. Know that these 2 are going to align over here. Know that these are supposed to align as well. And now I've got my panel borders for page 21. And now I want to have 50 Wimple Street. I think I've already typed that, and that's going to be very useful too. Where was 50 Wimple? That was a while ago. Okay. So we have 50 Wimple Street here. I think there's another text box that shows a location too, and I want to see if I use the same trick. St. Melbourne, London, which had less. Okay. So I'm going to grab both of these so we can kind of pick between the 2. So I can do this kind of text box, or I can do this kind of text box. These are ones I pre-built. And again, like they're not complex builds. Like these are just literally, you know, the pen tool, drawing that, tapering the edge, and then kind of creating some little snippet areas that can function to kind of fill those little corners. If these were for like final vector work, I would do much more built lines, but these are just going to be a template that we draw over. And I do like the idea of this actually maybe being a little more like the original, but it's only going to say 50 Wimple Street here. So we need to modify that. Okay, and then I'm going to do this. I like the way it was centered before. I'm going to kind of need to shrink these corners a little bit. Sloppy builds, guys. Sloppy builds. Don't like what happened there where those 2 overlap. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this, get rid of that, and then we'll... Okay, that can scooch now much more easily. Ba-ba. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Okay. And I don't like this overlap either. It's too sloppy. There we go. Got a little bit of a semblance of the original with maybe a tiny bit of freedom to it. Centered. Put it over here. Object, transform, reflect. Cow. I love it. And I like that because it doesn't take as much space. What I do want to know is I think that I'm still going to have the, I think it just makes more sense for it to kind of sit like that. So let's see how that looks. Yep. I want Wimple just a tiny bit higher. Boom, done. Too high. Yep. Cool. And then I want to compensate for that period on street. So I'm going to scoot it over so it actually looks centered. Hang your quotes and your periods, guys. All right, so we've got that done. And honestly, we don't really have a ton going on here. We don't have type. The letter is going to be handwritten, so that's good. There is one thing which is a sound effect, so we're going to go to our spot that has sound effects. I want it to use the same typeface as the clatter, which I saved a live version of here. So we're going to kind of make that here. I did warp this, but that's okay. Again, these are just base areas that are meant to kind of fill space here. But I'm gonna, and I also have already added like a stroke to this so that it looks a little cooler. Because if I turn off the stroke, you'll see it's like just a little too thin. Then we're gonna see if we can do warp arch or if we have to do something else to kind of make that arc. I think this might actually need to arc a little bit. Might be a bit much. Let's see. It's not supposed to say clatter. It's supposed to say crack. Exclamation point. And that, I think, is not going to be the way to do the arch here. So we're going to delete both warps. Save it. I do love the idea of this being here. I actually think we're going to do effect, envelope distort, make with warp. And here we will do a proper arc that's going backwards, where we can kind of get in there. So actually, I think instead of tilting it, I'm going to go back to this. And then we're going to do envelope distort, make with warp. I'm going to make this one really sing. It's almost aligning. I'm going to go OK, and then we're going to kind of move it here. And I'm going to modify just the very corners of this so that it kind of, you know what? One more try. Like this being a little straighter. Like this being a little more in here. And some of the modification we're going to do when we draw over it. Because again, this is a base, and then I'm going to do hand lettered stuff underneath it. Do some free transforming to kind of make the type a little more interesting. I might get in there just a little bit. Kind of having some of this a little less warpy. And I think that's going to do it for just a base. You guys will see. So now we have most of our lettering done. I don't like the A and stuff like that. There's stuff I'm going to fix when I go over it and hand letter it. So again, this is just a base to kind of build from. But I do dig it. So that's going to do it for this page. So that's page 21. Now we're going to get into page 22. And I think I'll even mark my file. You guys aren't seeing this, but the file that's now in the panel text that's not done, I'm going to mark as red. So now we're going to get to roughs, and we're going to pull in page 22. And we're at the 2-hour mark, so I'm going to take a break, get some coffee. And I'm going to play the Christmas trailer. And we'll be back, and we'll work on page. Well, let's pull open the page at least so you guys can see it. Let's at least get that set up, because that would be a little more fun, build a little more anticipation, I think. So we have 20 done for the type. Now we're going to do the exact same thing with page 22, because we've already formatted it correctly. So as long as I've done that, if I say flatten layers to a single image when I import it, it's going to be exact sizing the way it needs to be. And again, I'm going to just grab this, double click the page, make it a template. Okay. And then I'm going to do File, Save As, which is something you guys aren't seeing on screen. And I'm going to go ahead and save this in my panels text. And luckily, like, a lot of these are pretty easy pages because they don't have a ton of text. Like this one is almost going to be a repeat of the text we just did. In fact, let's get to our panels text. Pull open page 21. Actually, I'm going to close this real quick. Change the file name to where it says 22. Now we're going to pull that open and page 21 open. And what's weird is a lot of this is going to just be a repeat. Although kind of feel like on here, this one's supposed to be more of this type of thing. Okay. But why recreate the wheel when it comes to this? Well, okay, we can make this happen. So this is going to say S L O. You doing? Yep. SS Le Ocean. And then this is going to be flipped upside down. Move it here. If I'm being really lazy, I can just delete that and then just do grab the 2 points that I just deleted and just do join. Grab the 2 points. Join. Grab the 2 points. Join. We could do the one part here. I don't like what's going on here either. It looks like a weird kind of wonky thing happened. There's definitely some wonkiness that happened here. Take care of that. What is going on here with the stray? Man, I was being sloppy with my lines, guys. I have to get in here and just break that in there. And we'll do join. I don't know what kind of sloppiness I was going through there. All right. We're going to go to our stroke. Window, stroke. Oh, stroke's already out. It's just being covered by something. There it is. Put the stroke on the outside. I'm not going to change my stroke width because that's one thing that's going to keep this consistent. Like I already established my stroke widths on this book. Don't want to modify them. And that's a little tip if you're going to do books in this style. One thing that'll keep them consistent is try to keep your stroke widths consistent. Okay, SSL Ocean is going to be here. but I was really I'm starting a little too soon here. I shouldn't be working on this layer. I should have locked that. Let's do this again. Template, yes, okay. Now let's make another layer. So I was getting ahead of myself. I just got so excited about that SSL Ocean. So I'll be right back. I'm going to put the trailer for Jacob's apartment on, and then we'll get back to this. But I think by 2, we're going to have all 6 pages lettered and the panel borders done. It's like, the nice thing is, the second I did the first page of this comic, because I'm pulling from elements of the other pages, doing just the rough part. This is what I call almost like doing the rough panel borders and type. This part should take like no time at all. All right. It's why I love Adobe Illustrator. I will be right back. Here is, here's some Jacob's apartment trailers. And I definitely am feeling like I'm in the zone. I can do this, but I'm also feeling a little sleepy, so I need that coffee. I'll be back. Speak clearly, it seems that only in dreams can we these things we've seen and walk around breathing things. I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams. All right, you guys, I knew somewhere in the previous pages I had already done, because the whole basis of this book is structured on a 6-panel grid, and I knew I had a 6-panel grid that pre-existed, that where all of the grid is already pre-laid out. I had built it around this page, and so this grid I'm going to use for this, and we are, again, like, once I had built one of these, it was like flipping that corner. Pretty basic Illustrator stuff with using just the pen tool. But the nice thing is, at this point in the comic, because I've pre-built a lot of this stuff into it, it is just plug and play when it comes to setting these up. You'll notice that now my panel borders are looking a little off, right? Because of the different bleed. So I need to make this align with my sketch as much as possible, and we'll do some of those adjustments too when we re-import this to Photoshop. If that makes any sense. It'll make more sense when we get to that part. Okay, here I'm pretty happy, actually. This is exactly the layout I need. I know that the height is going to be exact, so it's just a matter of the bleed and making that align. And so I'm pretty content with this. The roughs are going to have to kind of compensate, because this is supposed to be just a straight 6-panel grid. And again, when you're doing roughs, you're not concerning yourself with too much of that stuff. I think I have a sound effect page already open. Let me see if I have it. If not, we're going to just have to reopen that sound effect page. 21, I don't want to save the changes there. 10, we already pulled the things we need. 20, I don't need. So I'm going to just go ahead and, again, this is being saved in my text folder. I hope. Yes, I just double checked. I'm going to go ahead and right now go ahead and make it red too. That's just off screen, but I like to make the file red so I know what I'm dealing with. And now we're going to kind of get into, there's no text on this page. There's just coughs. And I have a sound effect page that has the clatter, and I want to use the same kind of font style for my sound effects. So here's my click, which I think would actually make sense to kind of have as a clatter. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that click that I did on page 7, and paste it in, and I'm going to have it as cough, cough. And I really liked this font because it translates so well when I draw over it. It ended up like there were a couple tests when we were initially doing the pitch, and just this font just kind of won the day. I'm going to free transform this to where it's kind of there. And then I'll have my other cough sort of here. Free transform it. I'm totally breaking some typographic rules here by free transforming type too. I don't like that the arc of this is too warpy. And we're going to compensate for that when we do our lettering kind of by hand as well. If I were doing custom lettering in Illustrator, what I would do is probably expand these and then work from there. Okay, now we're going to I'm going to group, and then I'm going to do object, envelope distort, mate with warp. And I'm going to do just a little bit of a flag effect on this, but like very mild. I don't like that. I want my C a little closer. So I'm doing free transform, and then I'm going to do object, if envelope distort, make with warp. I still want to bring it a little closer. It's that typographic thing that happens with a G and an H. So I think I'm going to actually do that. And then I'm going to do object, envelope distort, make with warp. Just to add that little twist to it. It's going to have kind of a cool look to it. I think that's it for her cough. There's no more cough sound effect from what I understand on this rough. Oh, there is. Wait, is that a cough? We were going to have another cough here. Darn it. I'm going to release that envelope distort. Possibly put this here. It makes more sense having it a little closer to her. Okay. Now we're going to do, again, object, envelope distort, mate with warp. And the only reason I like to use envelope distort, like if you do a layer effect, type effect, that's really cool. And it's less destructive than the envelope distort, but it makes a much less clear distort on type if you are going to distort type, and try for that like kind of Victorian look. That for some reason the envelope distort just makes a much cleaner warp, and you can get in there and start kind of messing with the points on it. But the second you start getting into like messing with like individual points on your envelope, it just kind of starts messing with the legibility of it. So that's going to work. I'm going to call that done. So we have a rough type for page 22 now done. So that's 2 out of 6. Can we get this all done by 2 o'clock? That would be so cool, because then we're set to like start penciling a little bit. Okay. Whew. So we have page 22 and page 21. Let me just double check those pages. Yep. Now we're going to do page 23, and I'm making sure I'm using the most current one because there's a 23. Yeah, there's a 23.1 and a 23, and I want to make sure I'm using the most current one because one of them was revised. So again, I'm going to open this up, flatten layers into a single image, double click, template, okay. And this one, I'm going to actually pull from that previous one that we had done before. I think it was page 10 or 11 or 13. 13 was the one. 13 already has some text bubbles to work with, which is going to be good. Oh, need to do a new layer. This is going to be my type. I'm going to make adjustments so that it lines up with my panel borders on my rough. And I don't even need to redo the spaces between because I've already set those up. Why do the work all over again? Move my panel borders. I might need some of these text boxes, so I'm going to go ahead and keep them until I can rule them out. Oh my goodness. And we're on page 23, so I'm going to go to that in the script. We got the SS La Ocean. 23. Okay. So we're going to do... I like this text box already. That's kind of nice. I'm going to say... I'm going to use this. I'm going to go ahead and copy from the scripts. And then I'm going to make sure I don't have stray areas. I don't like the space before this, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it a little closer. And then I'm going to probably move this out. And then I might even modify this a little bit. Let's first give it a little bit more space between the text. And then I think I want it to just be just a tad bit higher. The catch when you're doing this kind of modification is just to make sure your anchor points aren't like if this anchor point kind of starts to overlap the one on the right, then they start making that like little wonk, and that's where these things look terrible. But as long as you're cognizant of that, it's like you can kind of make pretty good type here. I think I want to have this slightly go over. And this is always a tenuous thing to kind of set up as well, but we'll make it work. So I'm going to have it overlap just a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this. Use my, where's my Pathfinder? So funny, I'm used to doing this at work so often that like my home setup's a little different. And I work a little bit sloppy with my layouts. So that makes for a fun dynamic. Okay, so I just use the Pathfinder to kind of cut out that shape. And then I'm going to do a tail. I like my tail shapes already. So I'm going to go ahead and copy one of my tails. And then I'm going to object transform reflect. And go here. Kind of adjust my tail a little bit. I want that exact dot of it to like line up with her mouth. It's my favorite thing to do with the tail. And then it should get a little thicker as it gets closer. But I also want it like a little fat at the end. Pretty happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and join these as a compound shape. That way I can kind of move the tail a little bit if I need it. And then I'll go ahead and, ooh. I had those grabbed. Go ahead and send that to the back and then make it align a little bit more with the border. There we go. We've got one text. I'm going to save this in my panel text as rough page 23. We're not done yet, though. We got a bit more to go. And we got an hour to work, which is exciting. Maybe we can start doing the pencils for this type too. Showing you guys all my tricks. Ah, yes. Okay, we're going to copy this text. Paste it in. So this is why like having tight roughs really helps, because I already know I'm going to have it pause at bro. I know I'm going to have it break at me. I know I'm going to have it break at something of. I know I'm going to have it break at his death. And I know I'm going to have it say drowned as one word. And I'm going to have this bolded. So that it doesn't look like such an orphan, which in typographic terms just means like a lonely body of type. I think here we're going to have it cut off a little bit. Again, we do the same thing where it's going to be copy, paste in front, pathfind, break, eyedrop, send it back, grab a tail, adjust. I want my tail here to be a little bit more, this one's going to be a little more drawn. That's okay. I kind of like the arch of it. Let's see if that works. Yep, I'm pretty happy with that. Not super happy with this tail yet. I feel like I want it to be a little higher and a little further away. Now I'm kind of happy with it. Whew. Shoulder's starting to cramp. Okay, so we have a little bit of this going. Now we just need the other. Let me go ahead and copy that. Again, my rough is going to give me a ton of work out of the way on my writing. Where it's going to say he was visiting her in Torquay. I know it's going to break there. Perfectly calm. I know it's going to break there. No one knows why I know it's going to break there. This is why like those tight roughs just really speed up the process. Because a lot of the time you're kind of trying to figure that out in the process. But if you rough it out, it's like half the work's already done on the design level. Because you've already kind of pre-visualized like how the type's going to stack. I'm going to bold something maybe. He was visiting her in Torquay. The bay was perfectly calm. Perfectly sounds like it should be bolded. No one is going to be bold. Knows why the boat went down. I like that. Okay. We're going to kind of move this here. I'm going to go object, transform, reflect. Boom. I like this as being something that's going to get out of the frame. And I feel like having it a little over is going to be helpful. So I'm going to kind of play with that a little bit. See what we can do here. Okay. In this case, when you have one that's on a panel like this, you want to kind of do the merging those two shapes and then use it as a kind of cookie cutter. Oh, should be used as a cookie cutter. Let's see. Oh, come on. Why aren't you working? Oh, I see what's going on. This is still linked to the other shape. We're going to zoom back. Then we can get rid of the overlap. Then we can eye drop, send to the back. I really want to do like a more kind of expedient frame there. Come on. Clean up this mess real quick. Hold on. We got a shape to clean up here. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to do merge this shape. And let's see. Hopefully this is kind of making sense, you guys. So and again, if you're ever watching on stream and you want me to get much more in detail about something, I don't want to do like a full tutorial channel. I do want to help you guys out, but if you want like a more in-depth kind of talk about something I'm doing, let me know like live and give me like a small super chat or something. Obviously, I'm not going to get into like all of it, but if it's like a specific question, you don't have to super chat it. You can ask it, but super chatting is pretty much going to guarantee that I'll answer it. There we go. Look at that. We've got that done, that done, that done. All of it done except for this last panel, which is supposed to be one solid panel. How do we rectify that? I'm a lazy person. I rectify it by, we can do a couple things. I was going to merge it, but then I remembered it's got complicated layers. So what I'll do is probably just break it in the center. Break this in the, break this one in the center too. And then I'll probably just do join and join. And then I'll probably do the same here where we break this in the center. Oh, break it in the center, break it in the center. Join, join. Hopefully that kind of works and makes sense. So now we've got this wide angle. We've got all our panel borders and we finished page 23 and it is 110. If you want, you can do like a real quick edit, check spelling. It's not a bad idea actually. Torquay, I think that just is what it is. Let's find out. Torquay, yep. Ignore, 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 ignore. Okay, cool. It doesn't hurt to like do a quick spell check, but you don't want it to like adjust everything. Because like, again, sometimes it'll capitalize an I where it shouldn't be capitalized. Anyhow, page 23, done. And just to kind of keep the momentum, because I feel like there's a pretty good momentum going on here. We've got half of our pages lettered and panel borders done. Come on. Thank you. So now we've got, let me double check which ones we just did. 21 through 23. So we're going to do 24. Make sure it's 24.1, which is the revised. We'll open this up and then I'll probably play another thing because I'm starting to feel myself fade a little bit and I need to get another cup of coffee. I know, guys. I know. Oh, 24. Okay, good. And this is Adobe Illustrator. Am I missing a panel? Did we do 23? Panels text. Yes, 23 was done. So we're on the right track, guys. I'm gonna actually open page 23 because we already took care of a lot of this. So that can be recycled and used here. And again, we're just kind of roughly aligning it so we don't have to recreate the wheel. What's going on here? We can probably get this finished and then I'll take a little quick break. Because I feel like if we can get these done and we still have a good 30 minutes, I think that we're at minimum going to have the roughs for this is what I call like the roughs for what will eventually be these kind of hand lettered panel borders. This is like doing the underlying structure for like the text, for the panel borders, all of that. It creates just a real cool look for the final product, the way that I do it. And this is the first step. Probably wouldn't work for everybody's comic because again, it's like if you want to have this a similar look to like what I'm doing, this is like a part of it. So then we're gonna have this is page 24 now. There is something I want you to see. That's gonna go here. There is something I want you and then to see. And I have no idea what that is. This, I think, is going to be a taller one. It's going to be slimmer, but I kind of like it. I kind of like it like that. That's about the right shape. Maybe no, that was kind of fine. Sort of dug it. Now we're going to have the one thing I don't think I'll like. Yep, that's going to need to move just a little bit. So that almost is like perfect to where I had it designed for the thumbnail. And again, a lot of these get modified a little bit with the final pencils too, but this will act as like a placeholder to get most of the work done, which is pretty cool. Kind of don't like how long this tail is. I feel like with tails, you need them to match the mouth, but that's pretty good. Don't like how thin this is toward the top, so I think it needs to be a little thinner toward the bottom to kind of compensate. There we go. Boom. Is that it? Oh, Genoa, Italy. This one, I'm trying to think if we should. Okay. First, we need to save the AI. Hadn't done that yet. And then with the AI, I probably want to do. Oh, did we save it in the right area? Oh my gosh. I have to close this and reopen it. I probably saved that in the roughs. Yep. Need to put that in my panel text area. Then we'll reopen it. I just had to move the file. I accidentally saved it in the wrong section, but easy fix. Now I'm going to do I feel like I want it to alternate a little bit on the things, but I feel like this one should be another one of these lovely guys. And let's make sure we're spelling this right. This is 24. Genoa, Italy. Oh my gosh. It's like already sized perfectly. I just need to move it back because there's no period here. Holy moly, look at that. We're already done with that page. Are we done with that page? Hang on. Yeah, we're done with that page. Oh my gosh. So panel type is done for that. So now we just need 25 and 26. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is put on another trailer real quick, and then we'll go ahead and finish the panel borders for 25 and 26. I'm pretty excited. This is like more equivalent to like I do a ton of Adobe Illustrator work at home, so I'm very quick with Illustrator. All right, so let's put on let's put on the trailer for 2 stories. All right, we're back at it, and we're making pretty good progress. The next few pages might be a little bit slower just because there's more dialogue, but it's like it's not rocket science like making this work. This also has more complicated panel borders, so we're probably going to need to take a little more time. Let me double check too, because it went really fast. I want to make sure I got all the dialogue. I don't think these were really dialogue heavy pages, so that's good to know. Yeah, they weren't. So, okay, panel 25. I'm going to go ahead and pull from. Here is interesting. It's a little more nuanced, but I think I can just grab from the previous. So let's find panels text. I think let's pull from 23 and 24. 24, I'm just going to grab this like Genoa, Italy thing. Wait a minute. I don't want to pull the Genoa, Italy thing. I want to actually pull from the earlier caption that was a lot longer, where it said a date. So we're going to actually pull from our panel 5. So we're going to here, I probably should do this after, but this is going to be useful. That's about the right length. Now we're going to go to page 23, which we already laid out. Here I'm going to just copy these. Let's go ahead and copy all of them. What's crazy is I don't think any of these are going to be useful. Yeah, because it's completely silent other than these panel borders or speech bubbles that are coming in later. And for those speech balloons, I just kind of need this. That should be enough to kind of build my speech balloon from, because that gives me all the information about the line weights and stuff like that that I already preset and established. All right, let's get this layout what's great is it's already pretty aligned. I just want to do just one little shift. Dot, 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 dot. Because I know those outer edges are going to kind of matter. I'm going to go ahead and move this up. We're going to go ahead and make a copy of this. I know I'm going to need 2 of them. Cut it. And this one I'm going to kind of move up, up, up. This one I'm going to paste down. And then I'm going to move this part of it down, 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 down. And then for this portion, let's see. Yeah, for this portion. Oh, I should have had my group selection tool on. For this section, I'm going to cut. And we're going to move this down, 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 down. And this up. And then just to make sure we're kind of being consistent with like the width and distance, which we're not. Okay, so I'm off by like a shift. Yep. Cool. Now we have our panel borders laid out. Go ahead and save as. Oh, was there a revision for 25? Let me see. Okay, good. There was no revision for 25. That's good. We're going to do text. I should save it in my text file. I had a little space out moment there because it is getting closer to 2 in the morning. Here we're going to have, we're on page 25 now. So we're going to go down here to where it says Casa Guidi, Florence, Italy, with a period. Pretty cool. This one we didn't put a period, so I'm going to just ignore that period. And we're going to delete that. And similarly, I'm going to grab this and grab this, and then we'll try it again. Haha! Look at that. Lovely. It is lovely what one can do with the interwebs. Okay, maybe that was a bit much. Try 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yep. Perfect. Look at that. Look at that. You won't believe it. Okay. Turn off this. I think this needs to be a little higher, just to like look a little more balanced and a little, yeah. Other than that, it's good. Okay. Good, good, good. Now we're gonna have this. Oh, didn't I lock that? Lock your layers, guys. This needs to line up because it's a wide shot. That's much better. This needs to line up because it's a wide shot. I'd rather give a little more space for the panel before than the panel after. Save. Now we're going to do all our, oh my gosh, this is the one part that's going to be kind of tough is there's a couple things. Like one is I want to do abolition, I think, for the type. And then we'll do Liberta. That's just going to be for the sign down there. The other one is going to say the Unification d'Italia. Let's see our type. Just kind of move that a little closer. That's going to be a little bit more rotated and actually not rotated, just cool. That'll be the sign over there. That's it. And then we're going to do all our text. I'm going to say, I'm going to keep this over here. Okay. Unione. Let's make this bold. Kind of like the idea of having this more union. This is going to say Forza. This one's going to say Liberta. Really don't like that T and A. So just do a real quick type adjustment there so that looks a little better. Okay. And then we're going to do some really weird speech balloons, but I think it'll actually work. Don't like the hook there. Needs to be a little more elegant. Kind of doing a bad hook there. Kind of like this. Okay, so we're gonna do Pathfinder, make compound shape. And then this is gonna be, we should put those strokes on the outside. Is it too late to do that? Okay. Forza is going to be here, kind of them speaking. Okay. Let's do paragraph. Oh, not paragraph. What am I doing? In my Pathfinder. Merge that into a shape. I like the idea of maybe this one's coming from the window. And then this will be a couple people. Okay, and now we're going to do our make compound shape. Oh my goodness. Let's try this again. Oh. Make compound shape. Woohoo! We got there, you guys. We got there. One thing is I want to avoid unnecessary overlap there. So see if that'll work. And I think it will. Yay! Okay. We're getting there, guys. Page 25 with about 25 minutes left to get 26 as well. So this one's a little tough. It's not quite done because I still like this. So, but the nice thing is we already have a lot of this work done right here. Union. Forza. Then we're going to have a little bit of overlap here. Liberta. Union. Forza. Liberta. Union. Forza and then Liberta. Cool. So now we just need this. I want these to be real tall and slim. Save. I actually like that. Object, transform, reflect. Kind of like that that angle, so I'm going to do that. This one I want a little longer, and let's see if we can make it a little longer and a little more bent, but without kind of losing some of the original beauty of that. Oh, no. Make compound shape. Are you guys seeing this? Like how this kind of works? It's not super crazy or hard. Maybe we'll do this over here. Oh. I like these being a little slimmer. We're just copying this over. Because I kind of like it. Trying to keep that point while keeping this point. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. There we go. I'll just move that just a tiny bit over. Yay. Okay, and then we're going to do one of these over here. Kind of like it. And then one last one, which I think will pretty much be this, but over here. And then we're basically just going to do a bunch of joining now. So object, make compound shape, send it back. Object, make compound shape, send it back. Object, make, oh my gosh, make compound shape, send it back. Make compound shape. Come on. Send it back, and then same thing. Compound shape. Oh. Make compound shape. Send it back. Look at that. Look at that lovely typography, you guys. We're going to close this out because that is done. Woohoo. All right, now we have one left and we have 20 minutes. Do you guys think we can slam through this? This is kind of amazing. I'm really excited about it. I had to close out everything though. I think we're actually going to get through these. So the text, we now have the text for 5 of the pages. That's going to be our rough layouts. And then maybe tomorrow, I can show you guys what I do with the text once it's there. Come on. Okay, we're going to go ahead and grab 26, do the same thing, flatten all layers, double click, template it. And this one, I think we can pull from finals. So we had a layout that's already like this in our text that we already worked from, and it's like a 4-4 or sorry, a 6 panel, because 6 panels is that's our go-to. Cool. Boom. Okay, we also have quite a bit of type here, but we're going to go ahead and pull one of the Libertas. Where's my Liberta here? It's a person kind of in the corner going, Liberta. And I usually don't do smaller type, but in this case, that actually is going to fit better. For what this is supposed to be. Because I don't want it to seem like she's saying Liberta. Okay. Okay. So then we're going to have our our text. So I'm going to see if I have like some similar panel borders that have already been set up. We do. Haha. Isn't this lovely? So this one's already set up. We're going to copy it, paste it over here. Oh my goodness. It's almost like it draws itself. You are quite the early riser, my love. And that is going to say you are quite the early riser, and then we're going to break it at the point where it says my love. We're going to kind of get that situated where it is on the script. Or in the rough. And then we're going to squish it. And I'm going to probably just move this over a little bit. And we'll squish it just a little bit more. I'll probably have this a little bit here. So what's cool is that's done. Now we need, kind of don't know if I like it right there. There, that's much better. And we need a period at the end of that sentence. And I'm kind of thinking, actually, I might have made the wrong call on the rough. Oh. And I'm going to probably widen it back up. There we go. That looks much, much better. Quite the early riser, my love. And then she is going to be saying, how could I sleep with all of this? Oh my gosh. It's like the stuff writes itself, you guys. Now she is not going to have her text bubble here. She is going to be saying, you know what? Actually, this one's going to be better as like a full balloon. So we'll pull that from another one. I know there's a page with full balloons here. If they're not here, they're going to be somewhere. So we'll find a page with a full balloon. We need a balloon here. A full balloon. There we go. Kind of think it's going to be something equivalent to this. So we'll copy this. Paste. And then she's going to be saying, how could I sleep with all this? I like to bold type. It's one of my favorite things. I'm gonna make this one bold too. Let's do that. Quite the early riser. How could I sleep with all of this? Okay, she's gonna have less space here. Center that dot. And then we're gonna kind of have this have a little less space. But I think that actually is gonna make more sense to have it object transform reflect. And I want her because I do like that a little bit. But not too much, you know? It's always hard with these speech bubbles to kind of explain the science behind them, but there's like a specific look you kind of want to get with the arch. I'm not sure what the exact science is, but you know it when you get it. So here we're going to have her saying, how could I sleep with all of this? Okay. Oh my gosh, you guys. This may not actually happen. Let's do file, save as, and let's do panels text. We'll save. Okay, I think we might get there. We might get there. It's a worthy shot to just kind of do this till 2 a.m, and then we'll cut it out if worst comes to worst. I really would like to finish this in time though. Okay. And here it says okay. Here I want to make sure I didn't have excess. Yeah, I did accidentally have excess spaces. Okay. Oh, come on. Whew. I feel like there's still a little too much space here. I'm going to bring it in a little bit. Ooh, okay. Save. And we have one more thing to type, and we got 7 minutes. So I think we're going to hit it, but who knows? Yes. And I really like to keep a consistent typeface. I don't like varying the size of fonts if you can avoid it. I think like in a comic, you should have like a standard 2 or 3 set sizes for your font. This is just a design rule in general. But it's a good thing to kind of keep in mind in comics. I think sometimes when comics have like varying typefaces all over the place in size, it's one of those things where you could have like beautiful artwork, and if the sizes of your type are just all over the place, it can make it look less professional than like what it actually is. And it's an easy thing to like get correct. So point being, like, you could get it a little better and like just have your work look like a million times more professional, just by spending that little extra bit on the type. Not saying you in particular, like it's definitely something I try to do. And again, maybe I'm not always successful with it, but I'm pretty, I feel like I do a pretty decent job with lettering and layout. So, okay. You guys, we did it. We're going to do spelling, check spelling. Just make sure I'm not doing any hugely weird ones, and then we'll call it done. Whew. You guys, we did a rough, and we did the structure of the lettering and the panel borders for 6 pages of comic books. And on the next stream, maybe I'll actually, honestly, tomorrow, Artcasters will be on my channel. So make sure you're subscribed and all that fun stuff. But we should be having the like CB Smallwood on to talk about the Wildcat anthology, and I'll probably just be working on bringing these into Photoshop and kind of making them into a thing. But that's going to do it. So like making them look more hand done and traditional, and match the kind of pencil style. So I feel like this was a productive night. I'm going to go ahead and make JPEGs and whatnot of the rough that I did the last one, and go ahead and send that off to my publisher and stuff when I'm off stream, and then I'm going to bed. So I'm going to call it a night. Thank you to everybody who's stuck around, hung around, watched the show, everybody who showed up in the chats, Philip, Jan. Let's see. I think it was mostly Philip and Jan who were kind of hanging in the chats, but I know we had a point where like 5 people were watching. I know that's not a ton for like big giant streamers, but for me, the fact that there's people who want to hang out with me when I'm working on art is very meaningful and cool. And so I really appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a good day, and I will see you guys on the next live stream, which actually will be Artcasters. So I'll see you guys on Artcasters. Bye.